This video is brought to you by longtime partners of the channel, NordVPN. So the year is coming to a close and we are still somehow stuck inside and using video chat as a replacement for our social lives. We're using the internet more than ever, and I'm willing to bet that most of you do so without protection. Get yourself back in control today with NordVPN. That way sketchy people and companies won't be looking over your shoulder next time you're online shopping or whatever secret things you do online. Do so today with this special limited time holiday deal. Get 68% off a 2-year plan, plus 4 additional months absolutely free with nordvpn.com/Rainbot and promo code Rainbot. It's a mantra at this point. Yes, nordvpn.com/Rainbot and promo code Rainbot will get you access to NordVPN's super fast servers in 60 countries, up to 6 simultaneous connections, and best of all, if you're not convinced, then just get your money back with NordVPN's 30-day risk-free money-back guarantee. And with all that said, let's begin. Social media is a double-edged blade, and while it's contributed to and even improved our lives tremendously in many ways, no one can deny the amount of chaos it's also injected into the world. Of course, that boils down to it just being a tool, and one can use it however they wish, be it for better or for worse. Still, many will cynically argue that being concerned about social media is somewhat silly since it's, quote, not the real world. But as this story illustrates, in the hands of the right person, social media can be extremely dangerous, deadly even. Tonight, we discuss the story of the 9 Corpses case and Japan's so-called Twitter serial killer. It's late 2017, and 23-year-old Aiko Tamura of Tokyo has gone missing. Now, this is especially concerning for her family because Aiko had been struggling with her mental health, and recent posts on her Twitter account made the situation even more urgent. She'd posted just before going missing about how she was seeking out someone to end her life with. Needless to say, the clock was ticking. Not knowing where else to turn to, Aiko's brother had managed to log into her Twitter account in an attempt to gather clues as to where she might have gone, and that's when he found a chilling message left amongst Aiko's DMs. Someone seemed to be taking Aiko up on her offer when the last thing she needed was someone to push her over the edge. With time still not on his side, Aiko's brother had to act fast. There wasn't any way to track this person down based on their Twitter profile alone. So instead, Aiko's brother managed to track down another Twitter user who claimed to know this person IRL. Luckily, she agreed to take both Aiko's brother and the police to this person's residence. The woman leads them to a small, unassuming apartment in Zama, Kanagawa Prefecture, about 40 minutes away from the area where Aiko lived. There, a 27-year-old man by the name of Takahiro Shiraishi answers the door, and when asked about Aiko, his response was not at all what anyone was expecting. The man gestures to the inside of his apartment, but no one else is there. What is there, however, is a cooler box, and upon further inspection, it turns out that there are actually several, some stacked deeper into his home. The truth was, Aiko indeed was in Takahiro's apartment, but she was no longer alive. Parts of her dismembered corpse were found packed into the boxes, but believe it or not, it doesn't end there. Police keep finding more and more body parts, at this point exceeding what would have come from just Aiko alone. There were multiple people here. All in all, a mishmash of several heads and over 240 bones were uncovered, making it clear that what police actually had on their hands was none other than a serial killer. With Takahiro now in police custody and a full-blown investigation underway, the horrifying truth of these murders quickly began to unfold, as did the profile of the man responsible. According to Takahiro, he grew up in Zama, not far from the now dubbed House of Horrors. Just prior to the killings, however, the man found himself involved in some shady dealings in Tokyo's red light district, a gig that involved the illegal recruitment of women into prostitution. detention. This was Takehiro's first run-in with the law, one that landed him a suspended prison term in June of 2017. It was at this point that the now unemployed 27-year-old expressed feelings of depression to his father, who he'd now found himself moved back in with. Takehiro found himself at a crossroads, and needless to say, he elected to take the darkest path imaginable. During his time as a so-called scout, his main tool for reaching out to women was Twitter. Takehiro knew that he had a knack for connecting with people online and decided to allow himself to be consumed by Twitter once more, only this time for reasons that were much more sinister. 2 months later, in August of 2017, things seemed to suddenly look up for Takehiro, who mentioned to his father that he had great news. He'd met a woman and wanted to move out immediately, something that he'd need his dad's help with given his unemployed status. The elder Shiraishi agreed, co-signing with his son to secure the now infamous apartment. Now, the thing is, what Takehiro told his father wasn't exactly the truth, or rather, it was more of a half-truth with a dark undertone. This woman that Takehiro was supposedly moving out for was named Mizuki Miura, a 21-year-old woman he'd begun talking to on Twitter that same month. On August 13th, the two met in person for the very first time, and by August 19th, Mizuki was accompanying Takehiro to get the final paperwork for the apartment done, and in fact, she paid for most of it, about $5,000 worth of move-in costs. August 22nd was move-in day, and unfortunately would also be the last time anyone heard of Mizuki. That is, until months later when she was identified amongst the remains at the same apartment she herself paid for. Mizuki would be Takehiro's first victim, with Aiko Tamura being his last. But overall, including those two women, there were 9 victims total, ranging from the ages of 26 all the way to just 15 years old. All were female and sexually assaulted before being killed, with the exception of one Shogo Nishinaka, a 20-year-old who was killed by Takehiro after he confronted the killer about the whereabouts of his girlfriend. Aside from this one outlier, all 8 victims were lured in and manipulated by Takehiro in the exact same way. For those of you wondering how he got a woman he just met to pay for his apartment, this is the answer. Again, Takehiro loved using Twitter as a means to exploit people for his personal gain. As more information came out, it became clear that he had multiple accounts, one of which has surfaced online. Created in September of 2017 is this, Takehiro's most infamous account, one bearing the handle Hanging Pro and username Hanging Man, along with an avatar consistent with the rest of the page's themes. What's even more troubling, though, is what was actually posted there. One quick look at it, and anyone can tell that this person is trying to garner both attention and sympathy from vulnerable people online. The hashtags used often say things about suicide, the posts claiming that he has the answers people are looking for, and that they could seek comfort in him. And as we know now, he'd even reach out directly and just straight up offer to enter a suicide pact. According to Kyoto News, Yasushi Sugihara, a clinical psychology professor at Kyoto University, analyzed hundreds of messages sent by Takehiro, and this is what he had to say. He narrowed the distance between the two by disclosing his own personal information, a technique used in counseling, while helping heighten their interest in death. Professor Sugihara also notes that what Takehiro did was basically brainwashing, and he's absolutely right. Takehiro made these people trust him by seeming vulnerable himself, only so he could turn around and take advantage of them. He'd tweet about how it's not actually a good idea to tell friends and family that you're planning on taking your own life, clearly a statement made to push these girls away from their circles and closer to him. One by one, these people would go missing, no one expecting that they were already dead. Over the last few minutes, you might have asked yourself why Takahiro's tweets were never flagged or taken down, and the answer is multi-tiered. First off, given the subject matter, it's likely that followers of the account simply weren't going to report it. To them, this was more of a safe haven, so naturally they'd be in for protecting it. The second aspect of this is how Twitter itself managed content like this at the time. Following Takahiro's arrest, his accounts were all suspended, and CEO Jack Dorsey sat down for an interview with Japan's public broadcaster NHK. There, he expressed that removing suicidal posts altogether would be, quote, unrealistic and impossible, but what the site would do is ban any post promoting actual self-harm. Whether or not this has actually helped is left up for debate, but at the end of the day, people like Takahiro are always going to find ways around the rules. Again, social media is a double-edged blade, and now that it's been taken out of the box, there's really no putting it back. That said, at the very least, Takahiro himself, in theory, is never going to be able to hurt anyone ever again, or so we thought. I'm unfortunately ending this story on a bit of a crappy note, but here's the latest update around this guy. On the 15th of December 2020, Takahiro Shiraishi was sentenced to death for the murders of the 9 victims we discussed today. That's not surprising to anyone, I'm sure, and Takahiro agrees. In a December 16th interview with Mainichi Shimbun, reporter Kazuki Mogami asked Takahiro how he feels about the verdict, to which he basically says he's unfazed, and then goes on to explain what he wants next in life, which is to get married. Wishful thinking, right? Well, according to Takahiro himself, he'd been in contact with several women even from within prison via letters, and some even plan to meet him in person. Now, whether or not this is true is still up in the air, but it's not unlikely given that most high-profile criminals do accrue a following. Still, there's no denying how frustrating that news is, and I guess the only thing that we can do now is hope that this doesn't result in the loss of yet another life. This month's Patreon supporters are T. Gorman, Connor H., Base of Shadow, WH, Zooey Chazales, Ronnie, TBF, Saul A., Michelle G., Guilty Pleasures, Corky Barks, David G., Catherine L., KMBK Ketchup, PD Gunn, Astro, Tyler T., Bloody the Elf, Andrew L., Esper Nix, Sean the CHB, Eric M., Brandon F., Val C., Daniel G., AJ Runaway, Lance Ulysses, Layla R., Dave P., Chris R., Bath Time Duck, Mr. Gamer BBQ, Zimbledorf the Calzone Consumer, Rye S., Francisco B., Skygrinder, It's Mitt, Yellow for Jesus, Luck B., Scorian S., Benjamin M., Nick B., Melody, SCP Zippo, Keith Z., Matt J., James M., and Zerai. Again, thank you guys so much for your contributions, and thank you everybody else for watching, especially if you're listening right now. That's really weird. Anyway, with all of that said, thank you so much, and I'll see you all again soon.